morning, so it's another week. I'm not sure where this month's going, considering January is usually feels like it takes an eternity to get through, but here we are in the third work week of January already. And I was meant to be starting a new project this week, but it's been delayed by a week because getting these things through bigger companies, they usually take a little bit longer. So fingers crossed that will get started next week. But yeah, I decided I'd use this week to actually work on a case study for Action Links. So that's pretty much wrapped up. The only thing I need to do is the animation on the homepage, which I've done the sort of initial like step-by-step parts of the animation, sent it to the client, just waiting for feedback. So when I get feedback on that, then I'll make the amends, make sure that's all good, and then essentially link them all up. So yeah, I'm working on my own website or case study for Action Links, and normally I start working on case study assets, and I'm usually just like, yeah, I'll just do static visuals, and then I'll animate them later, and then I never get around to doing it. So this time round, I am designing things to be animated. So I'm designing them and then I'm animating them. Like my big goal this year is to really sort of focus on the quality of what I'm putting out, and so I can attract more work like this. Like, this is what I want to do. So I'm really going sort of putting a lot of effort into this stuff and sort of showcasing what I can do, and also trying to push myself to design these assets better. So I'm not going to talk too much of this intro. I think I'm just going to sort of show you how I start the visuals. So I'll start them in Figma, I'll show you that, and then I move them into a tool called Jitter. So I'll copy them over there and then animate through the different sections. And what you need to do with these animations is you need to think about how you're going to animate them in the design stage first before you copy it over to something like Jitter or whatever. Like, you need to know how you're going to animate it. I kind of design like a big part of like a still frame of like that's going to be in there that sort of includes most of the elements that I need, or all of the elements, but I'll just hide some of them just so I know that they're there and I can work with them. So yeah, I'm going to quickly turn you around and show you what I'm doing from a design perspective. Okay, so I figured we'd start by, I'm just going to show you like the preview mode I've got or set up in Figma for this case study. So I've created this hero graphic, which I'm also going to put on the homepage of my website, where I basically run through a few projects like this. I really like the bento box grid and it works really nicely. So I've done that. And I've also sort of I started by writing the problem solution statement. So I still need to tidy it up a bit, but essentially the problem, here's how it reads. What started as a request to move to a new technology stack that they could confidently grow on soon turned into we need to better present ourselves so we can convert leads better. Action Links had a clear niche in the arts and culture sector, having worked in it themselves. They knew the struggles these teams faced and how to get them to their website, essentially. But their overall visual identity was letting them down, diminishing that initial first impression and trust with potential customers. Not only that, the ones who did stick around weren't being best educated on what the product was and how it could help them. All of which hurt their chances of converting these leads to customers. So obviously I've done a lot of design stuff here, but the design is obviously used to sort of solve these problems that the client's facing. Like, as much as we like to think just nice visuals are the selling point, they need to be sort of pushing to solve something for the client. And then the solution statement, with the new site, our main focus was on converting those potential leads into booking a demo. This meant creating a visual identity for Action Links that not only felt like them, but also built trust with those in the arts and culture sector who'd be using the product. We also geared the content to talk directly to their pain points and how Action Links could solve it. I'm using social proof throughout to build more trust, case studies, quotes, and customer logos. And to further support it, we push more customers to find out more about the product, having created a suite of custom graphics to help support the content and make it more approachable. So I've started with that, and then I've started creating assets. So jumping straight in with the logo, I'm not sure how much you can see this. Essentially drawing out these grid lines, some animations we've added in there, and then fading it all out. We go into some more here. I will put the logo mark together here. So they'd already created this logo mark, and I essentially refined their logo with the new typography we're using and just tidied a few things up in terms of sizing and that sort of thing. We come on to things like colors here. So with this one, I really wanted to showcase how we have the different themes that the sort of client can use and choose from. And I still need to figure out what I'm doing there. And then I have some social post template animations. So you can see I'm really trying to put a lot more effort into these assets and not just be like, here's a static graphic, actually bringing them to life with some motion. So this is how it's currently looking in my Figma setup. And I'll take you through to how I'm actually designing these in Figma. So I have this Figma document, and for each case study, I kind of create this column of assets that I create for it. So obviously I'm starting on action links here. I need a number of different listing images. So this would be on the sort of listing page for work. This is for that preview, the hero for this case study, and also the preview that's going to go on the home page. And here I've started essentially designing the static frames for these assets that you've seen animated up. So I've designed everything, like all the grid lines, the text and stuff, and all the elements that need to go into it. And then I copy this over to Jitter. So I'll just show you all of these. So I'm designing these states of a core frame within it, probably the more complex frame. And then I copy it over to Jitter. So this is what I've got so far, and if I show you my Jitter setup, here is all these different artboards that I've copied across into here. So one thing I would say when it comes to animating any of this stuff, you want to name your layers in Figma so you know what's what. I've grouped all of these sort of animations here, but within them, there's a bunch of things happening. We've got lines drawing in, and if you don't group it, this just becomes a really long list, and you don't name stuff, then it becomes really complicated to know what's what. So I've named everything. I've got this one's called lines in, so that route runs through essentially all these lines drawing in. So if I scrub through it, it might be too subtle to see on the screen. We've got lines drawing in, we've got these dots appearing, we've got numbers showing up, again, more things coming in, and then cursor moving, so that moves in, and then we move it along, and it creates a sort of click animation. So yeah, I always find it interesting seeing the behind the scenes of these things, of actually seeing how it all comes together. You see the end result, but then when you see all these layers and everything, it's not as straightforward as people often think. And again, with this one, a number of things happening where it just scrubs through these colors. Even if it might seem like a relatively straightforward animation, it's not. It's not complicated, it's just I think you need structure to it all. And again, with all of this animating in, all the different steps. So yeah, that's it. Maybe at some point I might do a proper run through of actually creating an animation from Figma and moving it into Jitter, but that's where I'm currently at. So I'll jump back in and start designing some more graphics that I can put on my site. So it's actually the next week now, and yeah, I just wanted to finish off this video and show you how I'm getting on with the Action Links case study. So I started the project that was meant to start last week, this week, as planned. Kind of hit the ground running really well on that, I think, at least in terms of figuring out a design direction for the client. Obviously it's an initial design and we're going to have to build on that, but I'm not going to touch on that too much in this video. I just want to sort of keep a theme in these videos. So I'm going to run through the case study, and I did some tidying up on the sort of UI part of my case study. So I've changed this side. So I've essentially highlighted the key aspects of the project where I helped, and finished with this sort of like personal sort of CTA. And then I've just tweaked the problem solution styling slightly. So I bumped up the size of this text and also the titles on these, just so it's actually clearer in terms of like what you're reading here and make it stand out a bit more. But other than that, you have seen a lot of this stuff, so this hasn't changed. One thing I have had to do in some of these assets, I've got like this pattern here, and it's mainly these dots. When I export them as an MP4 or a Lottie animation, those dots are just adding a ton of file size, so I've had to remove them. I'm less fussed on this asset here, but when I get further down into things like social posts and share and all that stuff, I'd like to keep it because it is reflective of what the design is. So I'm going to have to try and figure out a way to see if I can optimize the dots more before it gets added as an image. So yeah, I've been tweaking that stuff. I don't think I showed you this last time, like I hadn't created these assets, but I'm kind of going through all the different graphics I created for it, showcasing like the graphics that I created for the client to sort of support their content. You would have seen this one, and this is where I'm talking about those dots. I want to keep them in here because it's reflective of what it is, but I just need to find a way to optimize it so like the file size isn't like 10 meg. And this is new, so this is the product demo that I was working on last week. This will go on the home page, and it's the first thing you'll see in the hero, but it kind of gives an idea of the kind of core functionality in an illustrative format of how it works. So yeah, that was quite fun to make, and it's a lot easier than I thought. Like even animating it didn't take too long. We ended up simplifying it and just focusing on some core screens and like having a bunch of stuff there already. But yeah, it turned out really well. Like initially, the first animation I put together was quite slow, which might work in something like a product video demo, but where it's like the first asset on the home page in the hero needs to be a bit quicker and snappier. So we managed to bring it down to like less than 30 seconds, and that was after like having the fading in and fading out and actually finishing it all off. So happy with how that turned out. You have seen this one. I've changed the sort of quote styling that I've got, and ideally I want to try and get a video testimonial from the client just to give more weight behind it, but we'll see. All of this stuff's new, so kind of got the before and after of the homepage. Again, this one I need to just finalize the animation here, But it's just showing some of like the scroll interactions that I added to some of the UI. And then these are just all static screens, essentially like highlighting some of the core UI components that went in. So just pulling a bunch of that out. And then I want to end off like having a mini run through of the CMS, just at a high level, so people can see that it's not just the UI side of things, like the editors, which is in a sense what they came to me for, so they could easily edit it. But that's it for that. And I also added a preview image of the next project that's upcoming. But other than that, it's pretty much there. I just need to optimize the assets, and then I can sort of get this case study on my website and published once the project goes live. But I think in the next video, hopefully I'll get to show some of this new project I'm working on. But until then, I'll catch you in the next one.